Hello Year 10 and welcome to Straight Line Graphs Lesson 8. So we're going to start by going through the answers to last lesson when I left you with these 8 graphs to plot using the gradient and intercept method. So the first one, y equals 3x add 4, the intercept is 4 and the gradient is 3, so every one along up 3. And I put 2 extras the other side, and then join those up with a straight line. So if you check your graph and check that it looks like that and goes through those points. Okay, question 2. The intercept for question 2 is -5. So I'm going to put my first point at 0, -5. And the gradient here is 4, so a long one up 4. And then join those up with a straight line. Okay, question 3, the intercept is at 5 and we've got just an x here. So remember that means 1x. So what we've got here is a gradient of 1, a long one, up 1. So those are the points you should have plotted, and then we can join those up with a straight line. Question 4, starting to get a little trickier now because we've got a fraction for our gradient, but the intercept is at -10 and the gradient is a half. So a long one up a half means that we've got to go along 2 before we can go up 1. So there we go, and join those up with a nice straight line. Next, question 5, y equals 1/3 x plus 1. So intercept is at 1, and this time a long one up 1/3 of a square, or 1/3 of a on the y-axis. So that means to go up a full 1 on the y-axis, I'm going to need to go along 3. So I'm going to have something like this, and then join those up to make a nice straight line. Now we're into some negative gradients. So the y-intercept for question 6 is 11, and then a -2 is the gradient, so a long one down 2. And then join those up. Question 7, intercept is at 9, and then a long one down 4. And then join those up to make a nice straight line. Question 8, I'm wondering if anyone managed to get this worked out, because we've got a gradient of 4, but what's the intercept? Well, the fact is we've added nothing at all here, so it's like having a +0. So that means my intercept is at 0, and I'm going along 1 up 4. So something like that, and then join those up to make a nice straight line. Okay, so we're going to develop our understanding of gradients today by actually working out the gradient of a line from the graph. We've got a nice example on the screen here, and I'm going to take you through it step by step, and then you're going to have a go. So the first step is, if you can, pick 2 nice coordinates. So what I mean by that is coordinates where it's going through the intersections of the grid lines, because then you'll be able to read off a nice exact value. You don't want to pick one sort of randomly in the middle of a square. You want to pick one where it's going through the grid intersections. So I've picked these 2, and what I'm doing is joining those up with a nice triangle here, a bit like when we were finding the length of a line previously at the beginning of this topic. And the 2 coordinates I picked were the point 3, 1 and the point 5, 7. And what I'm going to work out is the rise, which is the amount it's gone up between those 2 points, so the amount it's gone up on the y-axis. And to do that, I'm going to look at the difference between the 2 y coordinates. So 7 subtract 1, the difference, and that gives me 6. So that I know that between these 2 points, I've gone up 6. I've got a rise of 6. And then I'm also going to look at the run, and that's the amount I've gone along the x-axis. So that's the difference between the 2 x coordinates here. So 5 subtract 3, which is 2. And the gradient, which is m, is the rise over the run, the amount I've gone up for the amount I've gone along. And so that was 7 subtract 1 over 5 subtract 3, which gave me 6 over 2, 6 divided by 2, which is 3. Now, if you go back to how we were doing this before, every one along, I've gone up 1, 2, 3. So that makes sense. Okay, here's another example for you to have a go at. So remember, what we did first of all was to pick 2 nice coordinates if possible. So I've picked these 2. So if you all use those 2, then you'll know when I go through it that we're all going through the same working. So picking those 2, could you, I think I'll draw the triangle on for you as well. Could you find the rise and the run? And then remember, the gradient is the rise over the rise divided by the run. Can you work out the gradient? Pause the video and give this a go. Okay, so those were the 2 points, 4, 4 and 1, negative 2. The rise, now I can sort of start down here and count up, and I can see it's going to be 6, but that will only work when you've got a nice scale on your y-axis and your x-axis also, where we're going up in 1 every time. So that can be a bit dangerous. So it's better to think of it as the difference between the 2 y coordinates. So this one is negative this time, so that's going to be 4 subtract negative 2. And subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So 4 add 2 will give me 6. And then the run is going to be the difference between the 2 x coordinates. So 4 subtract 1, which is 3. So when I'm doing my calculation, the gradient m is the rise over the run, which is 6 over 3, 6 divided by 3, which is 2. And to just go back and check, that's 1 along, up, 1, 2. Okay, here's another one for you to have a go at. Again, I'm going to pick the 2 nice coordinates for you so that our workings all look the same, and I can draw on the triangle for you as well. Could you pause the video and see if you can work out the gradient of this line? Okay, so our 2 coordinates, -1, 1 and 5, 3. The rise, difference in the y coordinates, so that's 3 from this y coordinate, subtract 1 over here, so that gives me 2. And then the run is the difference in the x coordinates, so that's going to be 5, and this time subtract -1. So subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive, so that's going to be 5 add 1, which is 6. Now, when I put those into my formula, rise over run, that's going to give me 2 over 6, 2 divided by 6. And I don't need to do that division. I can just, you can see it's a fraction, it's less than 1, and I can just simplify that fraction and work out that the gradient here is going to be 1/3. So here's another one for you to have a go at. I just want to remind you that this is sloping in the opposite direction this time. So we should already know that this is going to be a negative gradient. So pause the video and give this a go and see if you can make this one work. Remember, you're expecting a negative gradient. Okay, so I have picked these 2 coordinates here. You might have picked differently. And I'm going to draw on my triangle. And the key to this, those are my 2 coordinates, is to realise that the rise here is going to be negative. I'm going down. So I'm expecting a negative rise because it's actually a fall, not a rise. So the difference in the two y coordinates here, 0 subtract 4 gives me negative 4. So you might be thinking, well, why didn't I start with 4 and then take away 0? Well, this is my second coordinate. This is the one I've gone along to. So I'm going to start with this, just like before when I was going up, I started with the one I've gone along to. So I've got to start with the 0. And that's how I end up with my negative 4. Then the run is going to be the difference in the x coordinate, and that's still going to be positive. I've still gone along to. So it's my rise that is negative in this case, in this situation. So my gradient, my rise over my run, is going to be negative 4 over 2, negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2. If you don't end up with a negative answer for your gradient and it is sloping this way, you know something's gone wrong with your calculation. So this is what we need to know here. The gradient m is the rise over the run, and that is the difference in the two y coordinates over the difference in the two x coordinates, remembering that you have to be careful when you've got any negative coordinates. So this is your task for today. I'm going to upload this as a Word document as well, in case anyone has a printer and will find it easier to draw the triangle on. Otherwise, it's perfectly possible to do this from the screen. So there are 3 sections to this. So if you want to do this from the video, pause the video and give these a go, and then play again when you want to do the next section. So here's the next section. These are all negative gradients, so you're expecting to work out negatives here for your gradients. So pause the video and give these a go. Okay, final section are these, and these are a bit of a mixture, some fractional gradients here. So pause the video and give these a go.